Hello, it's the time for the midweek message. This week, our psalm is Psalm 19, a beautiful and familiar text for many of us. The last verse is the one I want to focus on, and it's verse 14, and it goes like this. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. Or in a more modern translation, it says, let my words and my thoughts be pleasing to you, Lord, because you are my mighty rock and my protector. So this was a prayer that was written by King David, a guy who, if nothing else, had a steep learning curve in life. And for me, it makes him, hateable at times, but also so human, so relatable. He made mistakes, lots. He's not an exemplary guy. He at times let his ego lead his choices, but he learned. He learned a lot, and he grew a lot, and he changed, and he grew into his role as, king of the people of Israel. Partly because he sought forgiveness, and he always turned back to God. He looked to God, especially when he was in trouble, I'm sorry to say, but certainly at other times too, for guidance. And he did try to make amends for the mistakes that he made. And in that way, certainly, and not in others, but in that way, he is a great role model. He's a hopeful figure who shows us that we humans can learn and grow and change for the better with God's help. And one of the things I love about this prayer is it's this short prayer that he says at the end of this psalm that perfectly captures the attitude that it took for him to be able to change and to grow and become the person that he eventually became. So let's paraphrase it, just so that we can hear it with new ears, as it were. So let's look at it, let's hear it this way. May what I say and what I think and feel be up to your standard, O God, because you are my foundation and my protector, my teacher, and my example. Imagine if we started every day, every conversation, every transaction or negotiation in our lives with this prayer, with that attitude towards life. How might that affect your actions or the way you express yourself to your spouse or your kids or your coworkers? Would it transform how you understand work or our church or our larger community? Because David was able to learn and grow and change in part because he wanted to please God, to live up to and into the role that God laid out for him. His focus, in spite of the many mistakes that he made, was ultimately outward, away from himself and his wants and desires, and towards God and the people. Now, my dad used to start his sermons every week with this prayer. So this prayer has been embedded in my consciousness since I was a little girl. Instead of before the sermon, I pray it before the service. It reminds me about why we gather. We gather to be changed by God. We gather to be transformed by God's love. We gather together as a community to be changed and transformed and to then be able to act both as individuals and more powerfully as a community to try to help co-create and realize God's vision for our world, for what could be. I really believe that our time together should energize us. It should always be energizing. It should help us to see beyond ourselves and beyond the frustrations that we feel or the annoying things that get under our skin or others who get under our skin and who might not agree with us. Because rather than looking inward and allowing those things to prevail and those things to be our motivator for speaking or acting, we believe that God's vision for who and how to be is bigger and more loving than that. And that love and good news is what we are to orient ourselves toward. So take some time this week to pray David's succinct and powerful prayer. Say it a couple of times every day. Allow it to change you and to reorient you toward God. It might just change your whole perspective. One more time, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. So until next week, and always in this with you together, Reverend Stephanie signing out.